of what we covered about map families so far. So these map families are templates for the content that we want to replicate from your source web application. They start at the anchor URL, basically wherever you define the map. Depending on the scope is where the root map is. So it can either scope the map to a web application, a site collection, or a website. Each of those map families will contain a replication group, and those map families can also contain a replication schedule. Okay. And what you get whenever you define a map family is a hierarchical collection of replication maps. And we'll see a representation of those in a second. So the anchor and the scope are used to select the content based on the structure of your farm, or of your web application, I should say. All right. The replication map, we can also use, we can refine the selected content that we want to actually use, that we want to actually replicate. So you can also have, and you can do that by list, item level rules, and SharePoint object events. So there's about 4 different ways to select content to be replicated. Structure, list, item level, and SharePoint object events. And we'll go through those today. Okay. And here again is this representation that we saw in the earlier course. Wherever you define your map family, that's where we call the root of the map. That's where the map is rooted. So that can either be at the web application level, site collection level, or the website itself. And everything else that's defined underneath of that, at that point, is a virtual map. And the reason we call it a virtual map is because it's not actually a row in the database at that point. The root basically, whenever an event happens, it checks that root map, sees if all of these children are also enabled based on what's set in your root map, and then it acts on the event accordingly. That is until you customize a map. And once you customize a map, then that map becomes basically its own entity as well. So in the hierarchy, you have the root, you have all of these virtual maps, but then the custom map can have its own settings. So for instance, if there was a list down at this subsite that you actually wanted to replicate, only a specific list in that subsite, then you can set up your map at that level to do that. Okay. So again, back to map families and replication groups. So a map family always has that replication group associated with it. And what that group lets you do is define your replication network, as we've talked about. So that replication group is basically the named subset of the replication connections that you're going to be replicating to. And we can also call that your subnetwork, or that group can equal your entire network or a subset. So as we were talking about before, we can control traffic flow to different nodes in your farms based on the connections you have in your group. Okay, and you always have a group associated with a map family. That always has to be part of the map family. You will see whenever we create one that you need to select one. Okay. Okay. And so in general, the map family selects the content from the source web application that's to be replicated, and then the associated replication group and replication map connections determine where that content is going to go. All right. All right. So we're going to look at some examples today actually in the product. I've set some up. We're going to go through these examples of map families. So some simple ones first, replicating all the data for a specific website, and then replicating some specific data or events for a website. Then something a little more intermediate, replicating specific lists for a website. And then something really advanced, which is replicating all data in a list over a specific size to a destination list in a specific site. So this will highlight some of the advanced things that we can do with Replicator. Okay. So for now, I am going to switch over to my other screen. I'm going to stop sharing here for a moment.